Hello guys, welcome back to a very long vlog on the channel, but I can honestly say if you are a fan of Arsenal Football Club, you will definitely enjoy this video. I do have to apologise and throw in a little bit of a disclaimer. I have suffered so badly with my hay fever. I feel like you can still hear it in my voice a little bit. I'm on the road to recovery, but I'm still not quite there. So we got the train from Stoke to Stafford, and upon arriving at Stafford, I mean, even at Stoke, there was a couple of Arsenal fans on our train. As soon as we got to Stafford, there was even more, and then with every stop from Stafford to London Euston, there was just Arsenal fans everywhere. It was such a good sight to see. Cheeky selfie then in the hotel bathroom upon arriving there. We dumped our bags, and then the conquest was on from walking pub by pub, pit stop by pit stop from central London to the Emirates Stadium. It's safe to say me and Emily absolutely racked up the steps this weekend because we avoided the underground like the plague because we knew it'd just be overcrowded and just hot and
Sorry.
just not the one. So we opted for
Yeah.
walking anyway. So first little bit of a proper pit stop, bit of a refuel. We had a cheeky pint. And we went for some bao buns, and those bao buns were so good. So good. On to the second pub then of the day, second pint of the day as well. Absolutely love to see it. This was glorious. I really like this pub. There was just Arsenal fans everywhere. There was a guy on the door because they were showing the game, but you had to buy tickets to watch the game, which I think a few people complained about, but ultimately, from working in hospitality, I can understand it. It does really reduce the amount of idiots that you get in when you start
Absolutely
doing
for it.
tickets only. But we weren't fussed about that. We just wanted a quick drink, and the guy was happy to let us in. He was lovely about it. Cheeky selfie with Emily, and then I spotted this little bit of graffiti on the way down to the ground. I think this is called Caledonian Road. I'm getting there with my London street names and stuff. I'm gradually getting
Your little
like I
face.
learnt a lot this weekend just because we walked so much. Usually we just get the underground everywhere, but because it's so good and handy. But yeah, we did a lot of walking this weekend. There's Emily absolutely knackered in that pub. By the way, it was the third pub in, third drink in,
Shame it's not
and
windy
then
outside,
we
obviously, but
continued our
I
road to the
still know what
Emirates.
it is.
Um,
Yeah.
spotted the flag outside the ground.
Yeah.
And you can hear already we're getting closer and closer to the game. The chants were starting more. It was you could just tell that the Emirates was just down the road. And as we got closer and closer to the Emirates, you could just see just a sea of red, basically. And I have to say, it was an absolute glorious day for it. The weather was absolutely stunning. I was sweating, but it was fantastic. Loved it. I wouldn't have had it any other way. It was definitely perfect weather for sitting outside the Emirates. Do you think, had it been raining, we probably would have purchased tickets somewhere and gone to watch it at a
What's
pub?
everyone going
That
on?
was the original plan, but just because the weather was so good,
Maybe.
and the vibes around the stadium, even before the stadium, were just so good anyway. I have to say, one thing that was a little bit annoying was the little like blowy horn things. All the kids had them, and oh my god, I was it's all right every now and then, but you know what the kids are like when they have them.
But
So be prepared to hear them a lot in the background of this vlog, unfortunately. I did think this was really cool as well. Brick by brick, we trusted the process. We remembered who we are, what we are, and who we represent. This belongs to all of us, and I just love that.
insane.
And upon arriving at the Emirates, guys, it was like this already. This was before kickoff. Unreal. So they were doing a screening at the Emirates. I couldn't get tickets for that, unfortunately. Otherwise, I definitely would have gone for that first. So the second plan then was to just head down to London, find a pub or see what it was like around the ground, and catch up on the game. You know, keep up with the game on our phones. Headed into the club shop, and I think it was the first time I actually did buy anything from the club shop. I was really well behaved. I deserve a gold
Yeah, you
medal for
will.
that. So this
Yeah,
is
you
just
will.
half an hour before kickoff. And look at those scenes. Absolutely beautiful.
Carey's famous for rich friends out in Budapest. Tickets for the match. No way.
Like I say, those little horns could be heard absolutely everywhere. Do you know what though? Like, Emily isn't a massive football fan. She comes with me, but she said, you know, just being around everybody that was just so happy, just in such, you know, such a good mood. It didn't matter about how we went on to do in the Champions League final. But of course, you do want to win, and this was how we celebrated that Kai Havertz goal. This was just like such a surreal moment. Random people hugging each other, everyone smiling, everyone cheering, people throwing each other about, but in the best possible way. And of course, an array of horns just being blown all at the same time.
Come on! Woo! Come on!
If you do find yourself in any of the pictures or videos that I upload, please let me know in the comments down below. I did try and take some pictures, not weirdly, but just of fans like at the parade and obviously at the Emirates during the UCL final as well. Um, just to yeah, I know there's nothing better than catching yourself in a really good, you know, from a good angle that someone else has taken. But also, if you saw me, then make sure you comment as well. I am only short. What a day, by the way, to wear the Kai Havertz Scores Again t-shirt. You can get yours at Club 3012, guys. I will link in the comments or in the description. I'll probably link it in the comments, to be fair. If you want to copy yourselves a Kai Havertz Scores Again t-shirt, it's from my own personal brand. With just so many people that just all had the right idea, like, well, the same idea, you know, as me and Emily, just sitting together and just all the good vibes. Look, everybody in a good mood. I say people swinging each other around. There was just good energy, just such good energy. I think at this point, it was 1-1 as well, and we were all just we were all just living our best lives. Genuinely, it's one of those when you look around and you just see what it means and what, you know, regardless of the UCL final, like just what the season means, what that trophy finally clutching means.
Just like videoing someone
Now, of
cry.
course, we did lose on penalties at the end, and I'll be doing
I've got a famous
hello,
footballer
a
as well,
video
haven't I? In there.
over on my main channel,
Father.
Barbecue3012, summing up Arsenal season, and we'll talk about the UCL final in further depth over on there.
I remember the
I don't
song.
want to give too many opinions and stuff in this
Do you
because it is
remember
just
names
a
of it?
vlog. But this was our walk
I think it was
back. We
like
were just in
because
search of somewhere to go get a bit of
we'd
food, to be fair, and
scored
a
first.
couple
We
drinks.
all had that
And
hope,
obviously, we were all pretty
and then
deflated,
it just.
but the pride of this football club and just everything that goes with that was so. It was a long walk back to the hotel, and everyone was a bit deflated. We'd come so close, and when you lose a Champions League final like that, it hurts. But at the same time, it wasn't the end of the world. As we made our way back through the streets, you could still see the Arsenal everywhere. Shirts hanging from windows, flags outside houses, banners in shop fronts, businesses showing their support. It was a reminder that being an Arsenal fan is about so much more than just one result. Football gives you incredible highs and some painful lows. But what really stood out to me was just how much this club means to the people. Not just on match day, not just when we're winning trophies, but every day. Entire families and local businesses, whole communities proudly showing their colours, people coming from all over the world to show their love for this club. And that is what makes Arsenal special. The result hurt, of course it did, but seeing all that support around us was a reminder that one night doesn't define this club. The connection that
Everywhere
people
for
have with Arsenal runs far deeper than a penalty shootout. What struck me most was how different things felt the very next morning. Walking back after the final, everyone was disappointed. Of course they were. We'd come so close to winning the biggest prize in club football. But when we woke up the next day, it was almost as if the Champions League final had been put to one side. Not forgotten, because it still hurt, but today was about celebrating what this team has achieved. After consecutive seasons of finishing second and falling just short, Arsenal were finally Premier League champions. This was the moment supporters had waited years for, and nobody was going to let one painful night take that away from them. What I loved most was the reaction to the players. There was no blame, no anger, no negativity. In fact, quite the opposite. Gabrielle's chant was being sung all over the place. This is a player who had missed a penalty in the shootout less than 24 hours earlier, and yet Arsenal supporters were showing him nothing but love. And that's football. One minute you're experiencing the lowest moment of your season, and the next you've got thousands upon thousands of fans reminding you exactly why they adore you. As the chants echoed through the streets, it felt like a perfect example of what support is supposed to be. Not just backing your players when everything goes right, but standing by them when things don't. The parade wasn't about forgetting the Champions League final, it was about remembering everything else. The title race won, the memories made, the progress this team has shown, and as red and white smoke filled the air, flags waved from every direction, and supporters sang their hearts out. There was only one feeling in North London that day: pride. Because regardless of what happened the night before, Arsenal were champions. So after grabbing some breakfast and making our way into North London, we managed to find ourselves what turned out to be a pretty decent spot. We stood just outside Chip and Jerk on Holloway Road, right near the beginning of the parade route. Honestly, don't think we could have picked a much better location if we tried. We were close enough that we'd get a great view of the bus when it arrived, but far enough back that we weren't getting crushed against the barriers. At this point, we were just really a waiting game. The further up Holloway Road you looked, the more people kept arriving. Every spare bit of pavement was filling up. People were hanging out of windows, sitting on walls, climbing trees, standing on anything they could to get a better view. What really stood out to me wasn't even the parade itself at this point, it was the atmosphere while we were waiting. Normally, when you're waiting around for something, people get bored, they get restless, but this was completely different. Holloway Road basically just turned into one giant street party. Music was blasting from shop fronts and speakers, people were singing Arsenal songs at the top of their lungs. Everywhere you looked, supporters were just soaking it all in. Some people were grabbing food, others had drink in hand. Families were sat together chatting, mates were catching up. Nobody seemed to be in a rush to get anywhere because everyone knew they were exactly where they wanted to be. There was this feeling of togetherness that I've honestly never experienced on that scale before. Thousands and thousands of people, all different backgrounds, different ages, different walks of life, brought together by one football club. You'd hear one start a chant, and suddenly, 50 yards down the road, people would join in. Complete strangers were talking to each other like they'd known each other for years. Everyone was smiling. There wasn't any tension, there wasn't any frustration about the night before, it was just pure happiness. That's probably the word I'd use to describe it more than anything else. Happiness, pride, joy. You could just feel it in the air. Everywhere I looked, people had their Arsenal shirts on. Old shirts, new shirts, retro shirts, flags hanging from windows, flags wrapped around shoulders, flags draped over barriers. It felt less like people had come to watch a parade and more like an entire community had come together to celebrate something that meant a huge amount to them. And then things got turned up another level. Out of nowhere, the brass band turned up, and that's when it really started to feel like a celebration. Wasn't some massive stage show or anything over the top, just a proper brass band making their way through the crowds, decked out in Arsenal colours, playing all the chants every fan knew. People were singing along, clapping, dancing in the street, phones came out, scarves were going everywhere, and suddenly Holloway Road just felt even more alive than it already did. You'd hear the opening notes of a chant, and instantly thousands of voices would just join in. The band almost acted as the spark that got the whole crowd going. Up until then, everyone had been just enjoying themselves, chilling, chatting, eating, drinking, soaking up the atmosphere. But once that music started, genuinely felt like the party had begun. Honestly, if you dropped someone in the middle of Holloway Road at that moment without telling them what was going on, they'd have thought they'd stumbled into the biggest street party in London. Creating an atmosphere that I think even non-football fans could appreciate. Standing there on Holloway Road, surrounded by thousands of Arsenal fans, I found myself thinking about something that I get asked all of the time. Why Arsenal? It's a fair question, really. I'm from Stoke-on-Trent. I wasn't born in North London. I don't have parents or grandparents that supported Arsenal. On paper, it probably doesn't make much sense. For me, it all started with Thierry Henry. Like so many people of my generation, I was captivated by him. The way he played football, the goals he scored, the swagger, the elegance, and around him was an Arsenal team managed by Arsene Wenger that played football unlike anything I'd ever seen before. They weren't just winning matches, they were changing the game. The speed, the movement, the technical ability, the belief that football could be beautiful as well as successful. That Arsenal team made me fall in love with football. And as the years went by, Arsenal became more than just a team I watched on television. I Started going to games, I started travelling, I started meeting other Arsenal supporters, and that's when I realised Arsenal wasn't just a football club, it was a community. Over the years, I've met Arsenal fans from all over the world, different countries, different cultures, different backgrounds, and yet somehow we're all connected by the same thing. And standing there during that parade, looking around at the sea of red and white, I realised that's what moments like this are all really about. Of course, winning the Premier League is incredible. Of course, seeing the trophy lift means everything. But the thing I'll remember most isn't necessarily the silverware. It's the people, the feeling. It's the fact that a girl from Stoke-on-Trent found a second home in North London, a place where complete strangers became friends, a place where you instantly have something in common with thousands of people you've never met before, a place where you feel like you belong. That's what Arsenal has given me. That's what Arsenal has given me. And looking around at everyone singing, laughing, celebrating, simply enjoying being together, I realised that was probably the real reason I'd made the journey. Not just to celebrate a title, but to celebrate being part of something bigger than myself. And honestly, that's a feeling I'll never take for granted. As helicopters and drones started flying over, we all got a sense of it was getting very close. As those thoughts were running through my head, the wait for the parade continued. Not that anyone seemed to mind. Usually, waiting around for anything can feel like a chore. But not here. Nobody was checking their watch, nobody was complaining. The atmosphere was just incredible. Every few minutes, another chant would break out somewhere down Holloway Road and just ripple through the crowd. One person would start singing, and 10 people, then 100, then before long it felt like the entire street had joined in. It felt less like waiting for a parade and more like the celebration had already started. Everywhere I looked there were smiles, parents lifting their kids onto the shoulders so they could see over the crowd, groups of friends sharing drinks and taking photos together, older supporters who'd seen league titles before standing next to younger fans experiencing something like this for the very first time. I think that's what made today feel so special. Yes, there was a trophy at the end of it. Yes, there were players we all wanted to see. But for those hours on Holloway Road, none of that really seemed to matter. The parade almost felt secondary. The real celebration was happening all around us. It was the conversations between complete strangers. It was the chants being sung by thousands of people at once. It was in the dads explaining to the kids who players like Tony Adams and Thierry Henry were. It was the supporters who travelled from all corners of the country and all corners of the world just to be there. I heard accents from everywhere, different cities, different countries, different continents, yet somehow everyone felt like they belonged. Football doesn't always get it right. Sometimes it can be toxic, sometimes it can be tribal in all the wrong ways. But days like this remind you of the good stuff, the connection, the community, the friendships, the memories. As Arsenal supporters, we've lived through some difficult years. We've watched the title challenges fall away. We've watched great players leave. We've watched rivals celebrate while we wondered when our turn would come again. Yet people kept turning up. They kept believing. They kept travelling. They kept singing. And now they were finally getting their reward. Looking around, there were supporters wearing Arsenal shirts everywhere from every area. Some had followed Arsenal for 60 years, others had only recently fallen in love with the club. But for one afternoon, all of those stories merged into one. One club, one city, one giant sea of red and white stretching as far as you could see. And standing there amongst it all, I felt incredibly lucky. Lucky that football had found me, lucky that Arsenal had found me. Lucky that a decision made by a young girl in Stoke-on-Trent all those years ago because she thought Thierry Henry was unbelievable, had somehow led me here. Standing on Holloway Road, waiting to celebrate a Premier League title, surrounded by people who understood exactly what this club means. The atmosphere was electric now. Every cheer further down the road seemed louder than the last. Every phone was pointed in the same direction. Every head was turning. That feeling was changing, and the anticipation was becoming excitement. Because after all the waiting, all the singing, all the stories, and all the celebrations, it finally felt like the moment we'd all been waiting for was just around the corner. When 2 p.m. hit, everything suddenly felt a little bit different. Up until that point, the day had felt like one giant street party. People were singing, dancing, eating, drinking, just simply enjoying being around fellow Arsenal supporters. But now there was a sense of things were starting to move. We knew that around this time, the players, coaching staff, and everyone involved behind the scenes were getting themselves ready. Somewhere nearby, the Premier League trophy was waiting. Somewhere nearby, the players who had given us so many incredible moments throughout the season were preparing to make their way through North London. And the crowd knew it. They could feel the shift in the energy. The atmosphere was still brilliant, but now there was just an extra layer of excitement running through it. Bit of anticipation in there as well. People started checking their phones more frequently. Every cheer in the distance seemed to grab everyone's attention. Every police escort that came through was met with thousands of hopeful faces turning in the same direction. The chants were becoming louder, the songs were becoming more frequent. The anticipation was building with every passing minute. What struck me was that nobody seemed tired of waiting. If anything, people were becoming more invested in the moment because after everything this team has been through to get here, nobody wanted to miss a second of it. Not the players, not the staff, not the supporters. This wasn't just a celebration of 11 players on a football pitch. This was a celebration of everyone who played a part, from Mikel Arteta and his coaching staff to the players who had delivered week after week to the supporters who had travelled home and away through the highs and the lows. Everyone had earned this day, and as the clock ticked on past 2 p.m., there was a growing feeling that we were getting closer, closer to seeing the trophy, closer to seeing the champions, closer to witnessing a moment that would live long in the memory of every Arsenal fan standing on Holloway Road that afternoon. Another thing that made the day feel special was seeing the women's team involved in the celebrations too. While the men's team had brought home the Premier League title, Arsenal women had won the FIFA Women's Champions Cup earlier in the year, a global competition bringing champion clubs from all around the world, and the reception they got was fully deserved. As someone who follows Arsenal women as well, it was brilliant to see them getting their flowers. And what I loved is nobody treated them as an add on to the day. They were part of the celebration, part of the Arsenal story. You had people cheering for Alessia Russo, Leah Williamson, Kim Little, and the rest of the squad just as proudly as they were cheering for Saka, Rice, and Odegaard. It just sort of adds to that family feel that this football club creates. We're not just men's team separate from the women's team. We are very much one club altogether. So in the first coach we had our DJ set. seeing Josh Kroenke leading the chants was just too good. What an owner. And Aaron Ramsey at the back as well, having a swig. Go on. Hear Emily shouting Chloe Kelly. And even Gunnosaurus was getting his flowers too. The noise when those buses come into view was unbelievable. And what I loved was just how human it all felt. Josh Kroenke looked like he was having the time of his life, leading the chants and embracing every second of it. You could tell how much the day meant to him and just how much he was feeding off the energy from the supporters. Ben White, meanwhile, seemed determined to cause chaos all afternoon. He was winding someone up, laughing, spraying something, or generally being a menace every time I've seen clips of him. And another that really stood out was Miles Lewis-Skelly. You could see how much it meant to him, getting really emotional. A Hale End graduate, one of our own, a young lad who dreamed of moments like this and was now standing on a parade bus, a Premier League champion. There's something so incredibly powerful about that. And then my attention shifted to Leah Williamson and Lottie Wubben. Honestly, I think that hit me differently because while they were taking it all in, I found myself thinking about the little girls they once
A bit
were.
buzzing.
Girls who grew up supporting Arsenal.
No,
Girls who sat
since
in the stands dreaming about representing this football club. And girls who probably imagined days like this but never knew if they'd happen. And now,
that's
there they
unreal.
were. But just like that, the parade was over. After all the anticipation and singing, all the waiting, all the celebrations, the buses disappeared further down the road. After the parade was over, I did stop by a local TCG shop, got myself some Pokemon cards. We will be opening them at some point on the main channel. And after that, it was finally time to head home. And honestly, the journey back felt very different to the walk back after the Champions League final. The night before had been quiet, reflective, a little bit painful. This time, there were smiles everywhere, Arsenal
Because I'm
shirts
that
heading
like
for train
sweaty.
stations, scarves draped over shoulders, flags
Yeah, go
unfolded
in,
under
go in, go
arms,
in.
supporters making their way
Might
back
as well just take it off.
to wherever it was that they'd come from. Some heading across London,
Shit.
some heading elsewhere in England, some heading back overseas, but all carrying memories from a weekend they'll never forget. People often ask me why Arsenal, why support a club hundreds of miles away from where I grew up, and after a weekend like this, I think the answer is pretty simple. Because Arsenal has given me memories, it's given me friendships, it's given me places I never thought I'd visit, and experiences I never thought I'd have. But most importantly, it's given me a sense of belonging, a second home. And whilst the trophies, the victories, and the celebrations are incredible, that's the thing I'll always be most grateful for. So, from a girl from Stoke-on-Trent who fell in love with Thierry Henry and Arsene Wenger's Arsenal all those years ago, thank you. Thank you to the club, thank you to the players, thank you to the supporters, and thank you for coming along with me on this journey. If you've enjoyed the vlog, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and let me know your favourite moment from the weekend down in the comments down below. I'll see you all in the next one. Come on, you Gunners.